Hello, my name is Nicole Lara, and I will be presenting an overview of the country of Brazil, the national culture, the business climate, and human resource challenges that a multinational company could face when conducting business in Brazil. Brazil is located in South America and is the largest country on the South American continent. It is the fifth largest country in the world, and the official name is Federative Republic of Brazil. The capital is Brasilia, and the country has a population of about 208 million people, and the real is the national currency. Brazil consists of 26 individual states and one federal district where Brasilia is located. Brazil declared independence on September 7, 1822, and is now considered one of the world's largest democracies. Brazilian politics have been on the international stage in recent years due to widespread corruption in the highest levels of government. Operation Car Wash was an investigation into bribes that were accepted by executives at state-run companies in Brazil. This investigation ultimately led to the past president being sent to prison and the impeachment of the first female Brazilian president, Dilma Rousseff, in 2016, pictured on the right. The image on the left shows protesters in the streets of Brazil protesting against the government. Brazil is a member of several world organizations and local trade agreements. The country has been a member of the World Trade Organization since 1995. The World Trade Organization is a global international organization that deals with the rules of trade between nations in regard to goods, services, and intellectual property. Brazil is also a founding member of the United Nations, or UN. The UN is an organization that deals with international issues such as peace, security, human rights, gender equality, and health emergencies around the world. The country is also a member of the General Agreement on Tariffs and Trade, or GATT, and has been a member since 1948. GATT deals with international trade in goods. Brazil is also part of the Mercosur Agreement. This agreement includes Brazil, Argentina, Paraguay, and Uruguay. Mercosur has implemented rules that allow for free trade between the countries that are part of the agreement. Mercosur will soon be part of the Union of South American Nations, UNASUR, which will include 12 South American countries and will function like the European Union. Since Brazil is a part of many world organizations, this allows the country to have political and economic relationships with many different countries. Brazil is a close ally of the United States, but also has ongoing relationships with some African countries and has a close relationship with China, which is Brazil's largest trading partner. The national culture of Brazil has a wide range of acceptable customs and social norms. The country is diverse ethnically and culturally. This diversity is due to the fact that European settlers arrived in Brazil during the 16th century, which is also when Africans were brought to Brazil. This graph shows the racial composition of the population in 2010. Mulatto are people that are a mix of African and European ancestry, while mestizo are people that are a mix of European and Indian ancestry. There are still over 230 indigenous tribes in Brazil. While the major language spoken in Brazil is Portuguese, there are many languages spoken by Brazil's indigenous people. When visiting Brazil, foreigners should know that Brazilians are very welcoming and are known to be very vocal and direct when speaking, but the vast majority of Brazilians do not speak English. Brazilians enjoy the outdoors, and the country is home to the world's largest rainforest, the Amazon, and the world-famous Copacabana Beach. It is customary for Brazilians to greet friends, family members, and even strangers with a kiss on each cheek. Family is an important part of Brazilian culture. It is customary for several generations to live together or reside in homes that are very close to each other. It is common for lower-income families to reside in favelas or shanty towns. The image shows what a typical favela looks like. Several generations of family members will live together in these favelas due to economic pressure. A traditional Brazilian food dish is the feijoada completa. This dish is a mixture of meats served in a black bean stew alongside rice and vegetables. African, Portuguese, and Italian foods are staples for Brazilians, while American fast food chains are gaining popularity throughout the country. A major issue in Brazil is gender inequality. Women experience high rates of violence in Brazil, and oftentimes the mistreatment of women is viewed as a social norm amongst Brazilians. Over the last decade, there has been a large push to enact laws that protect women. It is common for police to not show up if a crime committed is domestic violence. Brazilian culture is very machismo, and women have been working hard to change this cultural norm to ensure their safety and their ability to be treated as equal citizens. Education is not necessarily a top priority to Brazilians. Free public education is offered from primary school through the college level. Although there are free public schools, the middle class and wealthier students are often the ones that benefit from this, leaving lower income families uneducated and in poverty. Students that live in poverty often have to leave school at an early age to help provide for their families. For most of the lower income students that are able to continue their education, the odds are against them to get a spot at a free university. Although the country has no official religion, the major religion in Brazil is Catholicism. Brazil has more Catholics than any other country and accounts for 10% of all Catholics in the world. In connection with Catholicism, Brazil is known for the Carnival festival. This festival occurs before Lent, a Catholic observance that occurs during the 40 days leading to Easter Sunday. Carnival in Brazil attracts people from all over the world to join in on the festivities. The festival is a large display of floats, musicians, and dancers, as the picture on the right shows. There are many complexities to doing business in Brazil, and the business climate is much different compared to the United States. I'll discuss what makes Brazil favorable and unfavorable to do business in, and what makes the country an interesting place for businesses. The Brazilian economy has had tremendous growth since the beginning of the 21st century. Even with the rising economy, Brazil is still considered a developing nation, since many aspects of the economy are not at the same level as other developed nations. Brazil is extremely attractive to do business in, and the country welcomes foreign investments, but it can be difficult for multinational companies to set up business in Brazil due to the complexity of the tax and accounting laws in place. Beginning in the 1930s, the Brazilian government started to develop nationalistic policies to ensure that the government could maintain control of Brazil's major industries. This led to the government taking control of the country's largest companies and initiating several industries. Brazil is known as a giant in several industries including mining, agriculture, oil, and manufacturing. The country has an abundance of natural resources, which has been extremely beneficial to their economy. In 2018, Brazil was the largest exporter of beef in the world. Although Brazilian beef is not allowed to be imported into every country due to sanitation requirements, China is the largest importer of Brazilian beef, and the total amount of beef exported to China increases every year. Brazil is considered one of the leading emerging economies in the world and is one of the BRICS countries. BRICS is the abbreviation for the 5 leading emerging economies, which include Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. Being selected to host the 2014 World Cup and the 2016 Olympics also catapulted Brazil onto the world stage. The cost to prepare the country for these large events did not come without controversy. The government struggled to find enough funding to cover the cost of building the needed venues for these events, and the country was in the middle of a recession. The Brazilian government wanted to host these events in hopes that the economy would get a boost from the massive amounts of tourists that would be visiting the country during both events. The World Bank develops an annual list that ranks countries based on the ease of starting a business there. Brazil ranks 109th out of 190 countries in the 2019 report. The closer a country is to 1 on the list, the easier it is to do business. The World Bank's analysis is based on the total number of days it takes to complete the necessary processes to set up a business in a specified country or to receive permits from the government. Although Brazil is not the worst country to do business in according to the World Bank Index, it is not very easy to set up a business there. Most of the large corporations and industries in Brazil are controlled by the government. Due to this governmental control of industries, Brazil has grappled with corruption and bribery for many decades within the government ranks and business community. Transparency International is an organization that researches public sector corruption and scores a country's corruption level on a scale of 0, which is highly corrupt, to 100, which is very clean. Transparency International compiles an index of the ranking of corruption perceptions in 180 countries. In the 2018 index, Brazil ranked 105th out of 180 countries for the perception of corruption and scored 35 out of 100. The country's score has declined over the past 3 years. In 2016, Brazil received a score of 40 out of 100. Brazil's new president recently took office and has promised to clean up the government to eliminate corruption. With the difficulty of setting up a business in Brazil, this often makes companies choose to partner with a local company in order to be able to set up business in that country. If a multinational company partners with a local company, this can provide insight on what Brazilian consumers want from the products and services that they purchase. The downfall to this type of arrangement is that a multinational company will need to find a local partner that is willing to be part of their business and their vision. If a multinational company is successful in setting up a business in Brazil, there are many factors that will need to be considered in order to be successful, including human resource challenges. Adjusting to the local business and cultural customs is key when doing business in Brazil. A multinational company should delve into the many facets of Brazilian culture and be prepared to adjust business techniques. A good insight for a multinational company to focus on is Brazil's culture map. The Brazilian culture map provides excellent information on where Brazilians land in communicating, evaluating, leading, deciding, trusting, disagreeing, scheduling, and persuading. These are all important cultural items to understand. In comparison to the United States cultural map, Brazil and the US are on complete opposite sides of every scale, except for the deciding scale, where both cultures lean more towards decisions being made by the boss or executive rather than a group. Understanding employee expectations is also very important. The things that Brazilians value in the workplace will most likely be completely different compared to a multinational company's home country. Determining the items that should be included in the benefits package that employees will receive will have an impact on how well a company will be able to recruit talented employees. Shown here are some of the items that Brazilians expect to receive as part of their benefits package. The most interesting benefit I found is a 13th salary. This is a full month salary that is given to employees during the months of November and December. If expatriates will be used to manage a workforce in Brazil, it is important that the expatriates have the ability to be self-aware and have the savviness to adjust to the culture. Providing the right kind of support to expatriates and educating them on the cultural norms could help avoid misunderstandings. It is important to understand even the most basic of norms. For instance, it is a cultural norm for Brazilians to arrive 5 to 10 minutes late for a meeting. This is not a sign of disrespect, but an acceptable practice amongst Brazilians. As there have been many case studies on mishaps that expatriates have experienced while working in Brazil, having the knowledge and competency of the culture is key. The language barrier in Brazil is a big issue for multinational companies. People in Brazil are not taught another language while in school, and most Brazilians only speak Portuguese. A multinational company will need to be willing to hire translators or perform an extensive hiring search for employees that are bilingual. Although Brazil has a large population, multinational companies will need to keep in mind that a large portion of the population is uneducated. The number of Brazilians that finish primary and secondary school is low, while the number of Brazilians that receive a college education is even lower. If a multinational company requires a highly educated workforce, this may be difficult to fulfill with Brazilians and could require a company to use expatriates for management positions from their home country. My recommendations for a multinational company that has the ability to do business in Brazil would be to hire regional human resources staff. Having a local partner that understands the complexity of the labor laws in Brazil would be extremely beneficial. This could save the company from developing a poor reputation amongst Brazilians. Understanding Brazil's culture map and business norms for Brazilians to try to avoid any misunderstandings in the workplace is another recommendation. Also, gain an understanding of what Brazilian employees expect from their employer in regards to benefits. And if the language barrier and education level of Brazilians is making it difficult to find qualified employees right away, be prepared to ask employees from your home country to take an assignment in Brazil for a short time.